Hi everybody, I hope you can hear me. Just having a bit of technical issue, just switching on my mic, and I'm just going to switch on my camera, but hopefully we'll be all set shortly and you'll be able to see me. Is everybody there and can you all see me? Welcome to today's webinar. Lovely to see you guys. Thanks for the thumbs up as well, that always helps. Lovely to see so many of you guys already that I know of for today's webinar. We've had about 300 people book on. We've got about 100 people here, and I'm sure today is going to be a really good hour spent with me. I hope it adds some value. In terms of today's agenda, we're going to go over the welcomes. We've pretty much done that. Employer engagement strategies, one of my favorite subjects. Going to be talking about that today for the next hour, and this is today's agenda. So pros and cons. We'll go through a few examples. We'll go through innovation, experimentation, and top tips really from my end for growth. So lucky for me, I get to work with a lot of providers. I'm going to share some of my personal experience and some of the experience of working with providers with you. This is my profile. Luckily, Nadine's already mentioned some of that, and you can see my areas of expertise here. But one of the things I want to bring to your attention is that I also co-manage a health and fitness business with my husband, and that's a B2C business. We've been doing that for probably 5 or 6 years now, so my expertise is dance fitness outside of this. That's how I keep saying. And yeah, I'm going to share some insights from that as well. So a bit of practice as well, not just preaching it. So here we go. So let's start with a poll question to get everybody warmed up for today. I do love a bit of polls. We only had sort of space for 5 options here, but if you can help me out here, we've got such an array of people. Give me your best sort of answers to this question. Which of the following engagement strategies do you use the most? So we've got here in terms of options, select all that apply, social media campaigns, website content, and the contact you get from that. Networking events, workshops, webinars, advertising, sort of SEO, PR. So if you can give us a bit of an idea in terms of where you guys sit with this. Nadine, if you can launch the poll for me, that would be really useful. Thank you. So let's do this really quickly, get this one in and out, and let's find out how we're getting on with the results. So you may know, you may not know, just because I know we've got an array of people here from sort of compliance and training, quality, all sorts of roles and positions, but take your best guess. And obviously we've got the BDMs and employer engagement, they will know. So we've got about 64, nearly 70% of the votes in. Let's get those in. How are we doing, Nadine? Should we give it another few seconds? About 80%, 90%, edging up, edging up. Any last takers? Here we go. It's coming in now, right? Okay, shall we stop there then, Nadine, please? So if we close that poll, that's ended, and then we have some results. So we've got, hopefully this is showed on your screens as well. I'm just looking at my second screen here. Social media campaigns are 56%. We've got website content and contact, nearly 60%, so 57%. Networking events, always good for our industry, and less so workshops, webinars, and advertising, PR. Okay, brilliant. It just gives us a bit of an idea in terms of where we're all at. And I don't think there's any particular surprise in that. I think that face-to-face and social media website kind of is always going to be popular. All right, brilliant. If you can use your chat panel, I'm always a fan of chat. I love to talk, I love chatting with people. If you can use your chat panel and just give me some other ideas, what other stuff, what other kind of marketing strategies are you using regularly? And then what I can do is with your answers, so you have a chat panel, not the question mark one, but the chat panel. If you use that, and let's just get some further ideas from you. Let's see what else you're using within your business. So we know you're using networking, not so much the webinars and workshops, advertising, but if you can use your chat panel and put a few more ideas in there, that would be really useful. Does anybody want to share anything with us? Have we got any coming in, Nadine? Mark? So I'm not sure if I'm missing them or if I can't see them, but if there are a few, Nadine, Mark, if you want to share them with us, that would be really good. Unless they're coming in the questions one. Let's have a quick look. I can't see where the chat panel is. Oh, we don't have a chat function. Ooh. Can my colleagues help us with that?
We're just looking into the chat panel now, but if you can put any chat in the questions panel just for now, whilst we get it sorted.
Okay.
I think that could be a good workaround.
Lovely, Mark. Lovely. Okay, shall we just do exactly that, but in the question mark bit? I think we can see the questions, just not the chat then in that case. So that was useful to test. This is when you're doing this live, right? Okay, let's have a look. We've got a few things coming in. Okay, trade association saying Susanna. Email campaigns are called external telemarketer, says Rebecca. Emails, yeah, that's always emails is a kind of one. AI bots, Paul, you'll have to tell us more. Brilliant stuff, okay. It'd be interesting to see how that works. Yeah, Nicola, we just use the Q&A. Don't worry about the chat, just use the Q&A. Okay, so we're getting a few ideas here, sort of telemarketing, still old-fashioned cold calling, says Andrea. Yeah, okay. So good, employer quotes and testimonies, there's lots of stuff there. What I'll do is I'll take some of that rich stuff that's coming in, we'll populate it into these slides before we send it out to you, so hopefully that'll be of use. Sorry about that. If you haven't got your chat, don't worry about it. We made it done with the Q&A. All right, let's move on very quickly then. So we have employer engagement strategy. So for my colleagues that probably not from this sort of discipline, because we know that we've had quite a few registrants from quality and training. Let's just set the context. So employer engagement refers to the process of building, managing, sustaining relationships with employers, really to understand their needs, provide appropriate training, skills, solutions. From an organization's perspective, it's about how we attract, communicate with, and partner with employers to create mutually beneficial outcomes, because that's just the wider context in terms of what is employer engagement about, what is that process, and I've just highlighted some of those keywords here. From a marketing perspective, employer engagement is about raising awareness of your products, of your programs, of your brand, and the value of apprenticeships, of course, building credibility and trust through content, case studies, somebody mentioned here, we share testimonials, success stories, educating employers on funding, levy use, apprenticeships, how it can address real business needs, creating targeted campaigns and supporting retention. So I've just kind of highlighted here at the bottom. So the role of marketing is to generate leads, highlight the value proposition, so the value that you bring, pique interest, maintain interest, and also retain engagement through regular content. So that's regular content that you're putting out. It's always kind of transmitted out there. The sales side of things is really identifying those target employers, right? Really understanding, well, who's the best employer for us, who's got the best fit from our product perspective, understanding their challenges, positioning your offer. Do your products and programs actually work for them as a solution? And then it's that contact. So sales is more about contact. Marketing, I always say, is more about content. Sales is more about contact. It's the actual contact that you have with a client to bring them further down that funnel, which we'll go over shortly. So it's focusing on solving the problem, converting to leads, acquiring the client and retaining them. So it's very much about that hands-on relationship management. It's about conversion, about retention. Okay, so that's just a slight bit of sort of nuance. Sometimes it's a bit like coaching and mentoring in our industry. Like, you know, they're related, but they're different, and they require a different skill set as well. So perhaps that's sometimes not understood in sales and marketing. We kind of just band it as a kind of two elements together, but they are a little bit different in their approach. Just showing this in a visual is always nice. I like pictures. They work for me, and hopefully they work for you. Marketing is about this funnel. If we're filling the funnel, it's all about the kind of awareness, capturing that initial interest and those prospects. And then effectively sales colleagues are coming in and really qualifying, okay, well, who are the best employers? Let's contact everybody that's perhaps shown interest. Some of them might be right for our products, others no. You know, you might have to find yourself saying no. And signposting those customers on to another provider perhaps, or to other products that you may have, for example. But it's translating, taking all that awareness and translating it into money, income for your business, for your provider. And in terms of the consultative sales approach, that is really about, being able to do pretty much all of this, right the way from the top, right the way through to the bottom, and bringing the clients with you on that journey. It's a bit more kind of higher level, I'd say, a bit more sort of sophisticated in its approach. It's more about education, supporting, nurturing, managing that, really keeping them close. Like it might lead to its kind of high value, sort of low volume comparatively to the other activities you might do. So I've thrown that here just to kind of show that little slight difference. This one's quite a bit different, really. It's that individual that can take that whole and holistic approach to sales and marketing. Again, another visual. So here's the marketing net. You might cast that out and you have no idea in terms of who's going to, reply to your content, be interested in it. And then it's down to our employer engagement colleagues as well. And they might be involved in marketing, of course, and casting that net, but targeting those employers that are ideal, your ideal customers, knowing your ideal customers and the ideal customer base. So hopefully that helps in terms of setting up that little bit of context around that. Let's look at the sort of employer engagement strategies. Some of you guys have mentioned them here in the chat and the Q&A panel here, and we've got some examples from you. And these activities, they're like your broad sort of funnel filling activities. I've put some examples here. There's loads more examples. I tend to find that these examples are probably the most used in kind of our world, in provider world. So when I'm working with providers, the social media campaigns, the websites, the networking, the events, workshop taster sessions, so using taster sessions, webinars, but that's probably more project-led webinars. So when we've piqued the interest, we're bringing the employers in. Why not give them a webinar then about our actual products? So I know that some of you said we're not using webinars as much, but then it's about that project-related webinar as well, and how it works, kind of more taster approach. Partnerships, somebody mentioned here the trade associations. Absolutely, you might have referral agencies that you work with as well. Partnerships in terms of awarding organizations, some of these professional bodies that you might work with, etc. And also subcontractors. Yeah, subcontractors, you might be working with other colleges and universities. So whichever way your sort of product base goes, you might have partnerships in all directions, but also employer trade associations, as mentioned. Podcasts might be another one. I don't see it that often, but podcasts are big, right? Podcasts are big. One of the kind of the biggest examples is really Stephen Bartlett out there with Diary of a CEO. I mean, it just shows when it works really, really well. And even in my own network, family and friends and professionals, I'm finding that people are making a lot of time for podcasts on the way into work, on the train, when they're traveling, all of that. And they like to listen in, as well as sort of like us, where we've got the webinar going, have visuals as well, but podcasts are really up and coming. Advertising SEO, yeah, it's about spend and budgets. So that's probably not on the up as much, but if used and if kind of really sort of considered, how could we optimize that and maximize the opportunity, then it could work as well for your broad funnel filling activities. So there's some examples I've popped on there. There's potentially lots more, so I hope that sort of helps. Moving further down this funnel and that kind of nurturing leads, that sort of bit when we're starting to bring some of these leads down further into this funnel, what more could we do? You guys have mentioned some of this stuff here in the panel we've got here. The phone calls, the cold calling somebody mentioned, the emails, the newsletters. I think somebody said bulletin, so monthly bulletin. That was Richard there, saying sort of monthly bulletins and newsletters. And the website inquiries, like incoming. I mean, they're just gold dust, right? Social media inquiries, like when they come in through social media, because nowadays, lots of people will just get in touch through your social media channel. They probably won't look at your website. I remember acutely, and it was not long ago, somebody said, excuse me, that, oh, I work for this, I think it was a car spraying company, etc. And we've got 100,000 followers, okay? And actually, when I looked at this, their actual page, their social media page, they'd almost stopped posting to their social media page, like the wall stopped in like, you know, sort of a few months earlier, but they were really harnessing the power of stories. So it's their stories and their frequent posting through stories that enabled them to build their community and their client base, their following through stories, not necessarily through their website. So again, it's all about testing what works for one, may not work for other. Posts might work for one, stories might work for other, etc. So there's different mediums to use as well. But for the purpose of nurturing leads, we've got all of these examples already given. Repeat business, yeah, bulky post. I know other providers still use that. We used to use it all the time at Chambers of Commerce Business Links, where kind of that's my background. Even in the college where I used to work, and also private training providers, some of that. I have to say, in one of the largest training providers I worked in, ITP, they were really up and coming, and they were ahead of the game in terms of their social media. When social media was just kind of starting out, they were there tweeting and putting content out in real time. And we had to kind of provide content, and as it happened, daily in the provider where I worked, and we delivered apprenticeships, traineeships, and skills support for the workforce, which is like your adult skills budget, adult skills fund. Okay, so just giving you some examples there. Further down this funnel, so we have the conversion. So conversion, that decision making, you know, that's really kind of where the sort of higher kind of cost sort of interactions take place, those one-to-one meetings, the consultations. I think Zoom technology, Teams has helped a lot now with this. But meetings, proposals, presentations, like those emails that might take you half an hour to write, because, you know, it's so important that you can't just get AI to generate it and send it, because it just looks like it's not you, and your tone and pitch is not in there. And it's too high value a client to lose. So you end up writing, I've written emails and, you know, to clients, and it's taken me half an hour, 35 minutes, and I want it to be, so not perfect. I just want it to have all the information that I want them to have, and in the pitch, and I want it to be authentic and original. Yeah. So the writing proposals, presentations, meetings, preparing yourself for all of this can take time. So this can lead to obviously those decisions. This could be the sort of that tipping point between a yes and a no, but these obviously take a lot of time. Yeah. Those calls to actions, providing the incentives. Somebody mentioned as well the reviews, testimonials, that proof, product demos. Okay. So all of that comes into here. So those are just a few examples. I've itemized it in this way across the funnel. I hope that helps. I think we have another poll next, so I'm going to ask for Nadine's help with this. So the question you have, if you can help me out here, is which of the following internal employer engagement challenges do you experience the most? So select all that apply. Do you feel, I mean, some of these might apply, just might be the one, go for it. If it's that it's not all of them, that's fine. If it's a combination of, but we've got here weak employer engagement strategy overall, like we've not really got this stitched up. Weak broad marketing, so that's the top of the funnel. Weak sort of nurturing and conversion, that sort of bottom to sort of mid to bottom part of the conversion, where we actually now are starting to close the sales. Or there's a misalignment between sales and marketing approaches, like one's doing one, the other one's doing something else, or there's just nothing happening in either. And lack of sales and marketing KPIs, we don't actually know how we track any of this. So if we can launch this poll, please, Nadine and Mark, let's see how we get on with this. So let's give that a few seconds. Thank you. Always good to get everybody's ideas. I mean, again, we could have put a lot more options in here, but we're just a bit restricted by the system. It allows us with 5, so I've gone with the sort of bigger hitters really, where possible, sort of in my experience of working with providers. Let's see what you guys think. So we've had 50 odd, just over 50% of the votes. Be interesting to see what you think, because sometimes curriculum teams and our colleagues from other parts of the organisations, they might have a different viewpoint of how this actually works compared to the actual BDMs and employer engagements. Like, you know, sometimes you might think it's strong and you work in that department. Others might perceive it not so, and it could be all sorts of variables and opinions that come into this. So we've just had 60% of the votes in. If the others could just help us out here, let's try and see if we can get a few more in. If not, I think we ought to try and see if we can close this. Should we go for the close? Thank you. Okay, so from this perspective, I can see here we've got weak employer engagement strategy overall, 42%. Broad marketing, so the funnel filling. So just the top of the funnel is the problem for most of you at the minute here, 51%. Nurturing, so bringing them down the funnel, 28%. And then there you go, you know, sort of the lack of misalignment, the lack of KPIs, misalignment. Like, imagine if we could get that right, just aligning marketing and sales, KPIs for both monitoring, managing those campaigns, and then just going back to that up there, the sort of bigger one there, broad marketing. So actually imagine how much more. So that's the top one here, sorry, the broad marketing and the lack of sales KPIs, they come in at 51%. And imagine if that was fixed, how many more potential sales you could get. So that's really useful. Thanks for that. Let's go into this next section then. I think we're going to start to look at the pros and cons of some of these areas. And in fact, we're looking at, here we're going to open up the pros and cons. But the first thing to sort of say is, if you look at, and this is courtesy of HubSpot, if you look at the average percentage of revenue that's spent by different industry on marketing, it becomes really important to get that employer engagement strategy, that alignment between sales and marketing and KPIs correct, because actually education, we have the kind of highest spend per sort of our revenue, company revenue. We spend almost about 15% of our revenue on marketing. So we've got to get this right. You know, if we're the second highest spenders, you've got to get this right. You've got to get this to work for you. So let's have a look at some of those pros and cons that I kind of alluded to just earlier, because we really want this to work. But what works, what doesn't work? Let's have a little look and a few insights. I'm looking at the top of the funnel, and I've picked some examples here. So those social media campaigns are brilliant for outreach activities and just high visibility. Obviously, it creates that social proof. It shows you're out there. It helps your brand. You just kind of, you know, constantly out there. And also with some of the platforms, you get paid ad functionality. You might not use it, but you've got that in there as well in terms of an option if you wanted to do paid ads on some of your content and see how far that moves, how much organic reach you get versus how much paid reach you get, and the impact of that on sales. The problem we have in social media is just too much content, right? There's just too much noise, too much content. How do we make it so that our content is the one that reaches the employers the most, or it piques their interest, or there's something that we've put out there that just absolutely they think this is exactly what I'm looking for. So that's probably the downside, is too much content, too much noise. The other thing is, you know, are we using social media campaigns to sell our products and programs, or are we actually using it to create community? So when I mentioned that example earlier, they had this company had they were celebrating that they had 100,000 followers, but generally they've done it through stories, not even through their social media posts as such. So as I mentioned, organic reach requires a lot of posting. So regular posting, you've got to be out there, you've got to get the followers, you've got to get engagement. And I guess you probably ought to have some kind of niche. There's got to be something special that attracts them to you, because there's a lot of information out there about apprenticeships, and sometimes just overwhelm. Sometimes overwhelm. Too wordy, too text-based, as is normally the case in our sector. Just doesn't give me the information punchy enough, and too, perhaps, you know, not as engaging as what it should be. Cost of advertising can be expensive as well. And as we alluded to in the poll just earlier, there might not be an employer engagement strategy, but aligned to that, there might not be an apprenticeship strategy, and then there might not be a social media strategy. Now, you don't want to write reams of pages on this stuff, but, you know, just a one-page approach an approach to social media, an approach to employer engagement, an approach to apprenticeships, even for the smaller providers. I mean, bigger providers will probably have a full-on marketing department and experts, or like some of you said, they might outreach and outsource to telemarketing, etc. Websites, so website content. Obviously, websites are really good, right? They create trust, credibility, they help towards building that, they help to capture leads. Here we've got Forrester saying actually 50% of purchase decisions are made even before they speak to a sales agent, salesperson. Sometimes what we find in our sector is that the websites can be too student focused, too apprentice focused. If you're a college or you're a university, again, you're very much focused on your full-time provision, and it's not apprentice focused, or if it is apprentice focused, it's not employer focused. And I have to say, in my experience of working with providers and doing sort of sales marketing audits on them in terms of where are you now, where do you want to be, I do find that websites in general, especially of some of our FE providers and universities, they tend to be quite heavy on student as well. So just have a look at that balance. It might be worth just going and doing that review. Average website visit, last 10 seconds. Yeah. I mean, I have data all the time, analytics on some of our assets and content we put out there, 3 seconds. It's telling me average watch time is 3 seconds. But we don't have time these days. Yeah, you have between 3 and 5 seconds to make that impression. You do get fewer visits by employers, but they can create really good quality leads. Yeah, so just have a bear in mind that actually do we get the websites to do some of the heavy lifting for us. Here we've also got, let's go back one, networking events. So a lot of you use events, networking events. Absolutely, people buy from people. People will remember you. Yeah. It's great for relationship building, great for authenticity. In fact, Nielsen's, they're experts in like customer analytics and behavioral management. They're actually saying most of the time, 65% of the new business is coming in from people, referrals, partnerships, all of those kind of networks. So it's worth it, yeah, but high investment of time. Sometimes, you can have lower volume of leads that come in. When you go to an event, they can be good, they could be the same old people. I've heard that a lot of times, but they could lead to higher conversions because they remember you. Yeah, they remember that sort of feeling, that chat they had with you, and they were like, oh, that was a really good chat I had, I'll go back to them. Or they'll remember it from the previous year. I've had that. I might have gone somewhere, spoken to somebody, and a year later, they're like, do you remember me? I spoke to you, and I was wondering if you can help us with this. And I'm happy to signpost if I can't, obviously if I can, because I always want to leave a good impression. Yeah, so things like that, just those little nuances. And then advertising SEO, we don't use it much, but it's great for brands, great for launching new products, and it's great for sort of calls to action. If you're using QR codes, you can track, so you can trackability through that as well. Great for visibility, but visibility in terms of your brand and stuff, but do you actually get the sales from that? So, can you actually, so you've got to set it up so that you can track the ROI. Not so great for building trust if you're only ever putting stuff out there through advertising and there's no sort of substance behind it all. And also demographic fit. Where are the employers? Are they on your advertising channels? Are the construction employers there? Are the care employers? Are the early years? So it might not fit all. So again, it's all about fit. And single bursts of activity here can be quite costly, and you might not get the returns. So you need a strategy for advertising, or certainly an approach to. Further down the funnel, so you've got consultation meetings. You guys will be familiar with this. So that one-to-one contact time, high proximity with clients. Always have good to have that proximity with the client. Really good for relationship building, and you understand the fears and objections of the client firsthand when they're in front of you, and you can observe that buying behavior. What is the problem? What are the obstacles? What are the objections? And you can kind of almost meet those needs and sort of resolve them at the point at which you're there with that proximity issue resolved. High cost though strategy is quite labor intensive. Short to long sales cycles is dependent, right? You could invest your time in lots of meetings and it would lead nowhere. Yeah, sometimes you get the one meeting and they sign straight away. We've all been there. Yeah, it's hard to predict. And it requires a lot of education and sometimes quite a bit of hand-holding. Okay. Tenders bids. I mean, there was a lot of this stuff a few years ago, right? Probably not as much now. But if the opportunities come along and you want to position yourself, you want to put yourself in the kind of marketplace for that, and on those frameworks and listings, then, you know, they could be low volume, of course, but high value opportunities. They could lead to higher or larger kind of cohort sizes, and you can get predictable revenues from that as well if you win. Okay, we had that in our big ITP. I mean, our revenues were like 24, 25 million just from about 5 clients. They were big. Do you see where I'm going with this in terms of some of those bigger clients can give you that sort of revenue to then be able to innovate and work with those that are kind of in their supply chains or further down, or it gives you that opportunity and a little bit of time to focus on other campaigns with some of the other companies, etc. But it's just good to have predictable revenues, yeah, from some bigger, larger clients. And that's where I think that consultative sell also potentially comes in. So partnership potential kind of is brilliant, strengthens the brand, of course. It's high cost, right? Very long sales cycles. It entirely depends on your writing skills, your bidding skills, your team, your presentations, how you look and come across. Your proof is competitive, proven track records, all of that. That just all needs to be stitched up, ready for you to put yourself in that position. It's very competitive, but you get really good feedback as well off the back of it. So, you know, if you got the tender, brilliant. If you didn't, you generally tend to get a really a good set of feedback as well from that. Repeat business, we've already mentioned this, is a lot less expensive to go down this route than to go through to, you know, burning yourself out, fighting for new clients. So let's just keep the ones that we have already happy, shorter buying cycles, less proof required. They're already bought into you, into yourselves as individuals, into the team's capability, competence, the product and what it's able to do for them, so that they know that you've got the track record. It just requires high quality account management. You can't lose them through the cracks in the business. There's lots of missed opportunities that I find when I'm working with providers for upselling, yeah, or just customer management, account management, losing clients, either from department to department, person to person, hand over to hand. They finish the program and we let them go. So where's the upsales, kind of the upselling strategy? You know, that sort of whole vertical chain of events across the entire learner journey, how does that work? Because it could work out cheaper for you in the long run, yeah? And you just continue to amass more clients and build your client base up in your following. Referrals, as we mentioned, obviously works on reputation, yeah? Just shows brand trust, higher conversion, lower acquisition costs, yeah? And it's got good revenue potential at the end of the day, yeah? If you're working with partners, networks, and they're happy to seed you guys in, it's down to you, yeah? Then to get the sale or to convert sales from the existing client base. Sometimes what I see is that there's an over-reliance on individuals. So if you've got a really good BDM, or a good set of BDMs, and let's say, for example, they're not in on that day when the client phones up, the client will say, all right, I'll phone back later when they're in. Yeah. Or if that person's left, the kind of, I suppose the danger is that they could potentially take that business with them as well, because there's the relationship is there. And this can't be used then as a sole strategy really by itself. You still need all these other various elements that we've talked about already in the past sort of 30 minutes. But this obviously requires really good networks. So you have to put some effort in as well. It can be a bit high cost to start with, but if it works, it could really pay dividends. Okay. We have another poll here, so if you can help me out. Which of the following external employer engagement challenges do you experience the most? So if you look at outward facing, is it low employer interest in your products, programs, and your brand, weak brand recognition, already working with other competitors, poor product fit, your products, programs don't really fit what they're looking for, and negative employer feedback? So if we can launch this, please, Nadine. and Mark, that would be lovely, thank you. So let's just get your immediate sort of responses, and feel free to select all that apply. I've just put in the ones that I think kind of mostly I find working with apprenticeships, within apprenticeships, tend to come up. Okay, so let's get a few more in. So got 50% of them, a few more. Okay, shall we look to close? Okay, all right, we've got probably most of them in that case. So here we have, just going to scroll up and down here, 65% of you are saying they're working with other competitors, okay, followed by 55% are saying they're just not interested. We can't get employers interested in these products, programs that we have. Let's have a look. So those are the highest hitters really, followed by weak brand recognition. And then, so if they're already working with competitors, you could be looking at, okay, well, what are the competitors doing? What do the competitors offer compared to what we do? So is there something to be looking at in there? Is there something, is that telling us that perhaps we haven't got the right product and they go into competitors because the product fit is better? Are they going to competitors because they've already got a long-standing relationship there? Is it that they've got some other kind of USP edge that you don't have, and that's why they're working with competitors? So there's further analysis that you can potentially do there. Low employer interest, they're probably not seen your brand, they probably don't know what you do. Perhaps again, going back to the marketing, that might be weak. It might be that they don't have the money to invest. We've got to admit that it's not the right time for them, but you can still create the relationship, and eventually, maybe a year later, they remember you and they will come back. So it's all of the above, and then the weak brand recognition. Again, that funnel filling activity, we've talked about that earlier, and perhaps these two, perhaps three elements are also related. There's something in there to say, perhaps our weak brand recognition is not leading to employer interest, is not converting employers, and perhaps that's better with our competitors because they're stronger in their brands, and they're getting the interest because the funnel filling at the top, they've probably got a better approach to it. I don't know, I can't say, but just sort of reading between the lines there and trying to give you some ideas without working with you sort of directly, and some of those case studies we can't give those, but just some initial ideas and thoughts there. Okay, let's move on. Here it's all about sort of innovation. I really want to talk to you about, there is no kind of one way approach that is going to get you the sale. Last time I looked at it, I think, there was probably about 6 minimum. I think eventually I came to about 8 dimensions. I would need 8 dimensions, and 8 dimensions sort of axis to kind of really work out what works on sales and marketing, right? We just don't have that. It's just there's no one tool that will give you the kind of sweet spot that if we do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, that is the sweet spot, and we're gonna rock it. Our revenues are gonna rock it. So then it becomes about experimentation, innovating, experimenting, and finding out what works for you. And this can be painful. It can be really sort of labor intensive. It can be time intensive. But here's the thing: if you don't do it, you're still going to be putting stuff out there, not knowing what isn't working. But if you sort of sit back and think, right, okay, where are we at the moment? What approach do we need? Where is the weakness? How do we go about this? And experimenting, what does our sales and marketing plan look like in terms of the best tests that we can perform? Because once you do that, you'll then start to sort of filter off anything that didn't work. You might try that 2-3 times and you think that's definitely not working. We can kind of cross that off. Let's move with this, let's optimize this. And certainly what I find in my experience with our other business, our health and fitness business, I've got an example actually coming up. We've tried different channels, we've tried different platforms, we've tried webinars, workshops, we've done call outs on social media, and there's straight away, like, I can tell you what works for us now, what doesn't. But it didn't come to us immediately. We had to work it out. So I think if you could put the investment into this, this is where I think that you're going to make those you're going to start to see the dividends working for you. So it's all about testing to establish what really does work. And some of those parameters I've put here at the bottom, like those key considerations, like your audiences, where they are, those sectors. Like what works for construction is not going to work for your, for example, your professional services. So channels that you use, content, I've put that in bold here because frankly, if you haven't got engaging content, yeah, it's just not going to work. Your content needs to be super engaging. And I think we play it too safe in our sector. Sometimes it's just way too wordy. It's kind of government speak. Yeah, I know we can't be too daring, but I don't think we're innovative enough. We're just not fresh. We're not hitting the mark. But that's my view as a professional working in this sector for like 20 odd years, but also everything that I learned from working the B2C market as well, what works there, what doesn't. And I've done a lot of B2B in chambers of commerce, business links, LEPs, colleges, private training providers, and also for LX. Yeah. But here, just giving you some ideas, what I'm finding is a lot of the times the website isn't doing the heavy lifting. I can't say for yours, you guys on here today, whether it does or not, is probably worth checking. Social media, which channels are we using for B2C, B2B? Because some of you will be talking to aspiring apprentices, others will be talking to employers. Some of you will be doing one, both. I don't know, I can't say, but which is the best social media outlet for you, channel for you. Networking events, so what is the skill set for that? Are the BDMs, do they have the right sort of, you know, character, personality? Are they confident? Does their competence and confidence need developing? It might be worth a bit of a check. And what is the return on investment from going to events? Workshops, webinars, do we arrange them by ourselves and our brand? Do we attend them? Yeah. And advertising channels, as mentioned, you know, what are the costs, timeliness, regularity, all these things we've mentioned just earlier. So all of this stuff needs to be taken into consideration. As I said, I was sort of looking at easily an 6 to 8 dimension scale axes that you need to probably look at and find, you know, that experimentation where you can find what works for you. Okay. Here is an example. So here's a post that I put out for our other business. We're working with the University of Wolverhampton here in the Midlands, I am. And on our fitness business, we're working with the uni and we're doing a Bhangra fitness study. Like, what is the impact of dance fitness on Bhangra as an Indian dance on the body? So we're doing this study. And the university said we need 30 participants that have never been to any of your classes. We've been doing classes now for nearly 10 years, but they have to be fresh. We're like, okay, no worries, we can find 30 people for you. Yeah. So have a look at this. Same video. And literally, I was on my way to somewhere and I stopped to make this video. It took me probably about, not even 2 minutes. Like, it literally took me about a minute to make it and we put it out there. Facebook, 2,846 views, okay? Same day, the same video. Insta, 8,500 views, okay? Same video, TikTok. Okay, so I don't know if that surprises some of you. If you want to fancy commenting in the chat, if the chat's back, or in the Q&A, I mean, does that shock you? I don't know. For me, I was like, we were massively surprised, yeah. And this led to direct leads for us. We were inundated with applicants. We overshot the 30, like 5, 6, 7 times over. We're still getting inquiries because the post is still out there on the wall. So they'll still go back to this and they'll get in touch saying, can we still be part of this study? See where I'm going with this. And we had to kind of run this. Yeah, we had to run this study. We've had to actually put it on again because we were that oversubscribed. So it just shows you, like, we could have left it on Facebook, but we just tried it. We thought, you know what, it's worth a test. Same day, same video. Hardly no cost to make it, phone, you know, and that's it. Yeah. So this hopefully gives you a bit of an idea that actually experimentation is worth it. And there's a lot of noise in our sector. There's no shortage of noise, right? You overlay your brands my colleagues here, all of the brands on top of this. Yeah, and these employers are absolutely confused as hell. It's down to you and your sort of skill to enable them to navigate through, if you like, through all of this. And experimentation, there's another kind of axis that I've put here for you. You could look at this from non-levy clients and levy clients as well, the large corporates. What do they want? This is just, again, another thought process. Might work in this way, might not. The clients on this end of the scale really want that sort of project information, fast turnarounds, quick wins. Solve my problem very quickly. I just want to solve the short-term, medium-term issue, handhold, just do it for me. It requires a higher level of familiarity, yeah? Higher level of familiarity. On this side, the kind of larger sort of levy clients, corporates, yeah, and the ones in the middle might require a little bit of both. That project information, of course, they still want it, but they want that solid, strategic, professional understanding of their business and their industry issues. That's what they're looking for. Yeah, it's slightly higher level. We're slightly more sort of sophisticated in our approach towards all of this. They're looking to solve medium to long-term issues, analytics, impact, evidence, records, ROIs, proof. We're looking for all of that. And also, of course, we want the partnerships, we want the proposals, we want the formal quotations. Where I used to work, we had our marketing department made us look fantastic. All of our presentations, all of our bidding, all of our bids, the way we wrote them, the way we sent them, the way we went there and did presentations to the bigger clients. These were automotive clients. Yeah, you used to have to go to their head office. You've got the big car just in the, as you walk in, doors open, the massive couple of cars there, all of that. And so, the approach is totally different to here for like non or smaller clients, right? And it requires a higher level of formality and professionalism in that approach. So I'm just giving you another scale here, just another way of looking at it. Yeah, remember I was talking about those dimensions. And here, and then I've just kind of added and overlaid it by this, that kind of, there's a product-led approach, and then there's a service and experience-led approach as well. Again, throwing out a few more ideas, overlaying this a little bit, just giving you something to think about, a few more takeaways. Yeah, and what we have to work out, is where do you position yourselves here in the marketplace? How do you or will you reach that position? Are you product-based, or are you a service sort of based, experience-based? What are you competing on? And in fact, I think that's our next poll. Yeah, that's the next question. So the question is, what is your USP? What exactly are you competing on? So we had this whole issue that actually the employers don't recognize us. We have low interest. They don't recognize our brand. They're working with other brands. Why is it the other brands potentially stronger? Are they've probably been there with them for years? We don't know. But when you're competing, what are you competing on? Is it your specialism, your expertise? Is it your academic rigor? Like nobody can beat us on this. Our world-class facilities, our national reach, like we really optimize and maximize our use of technology. We can deliver our programs all over the UK. Yeah. And if you have got that capability, why are you not using it? You might be, might not be. Is there something there? Or value and outcomes based? Let's launch this. Let's see how we go. I have restricted you to one option here, though, not all of them. So I'm really kind of asking you to be very specific here. Please. Okay, this is going to be interesting for us. And I love data. I'm quite geeky about data, so I like polls. So please select one. I know it's going to be difficult because you might think, well, we do, a number of these. But if it was one you had to go with over and above every other one listed here, which one is it? How are we doing? How are we doing, AD? Should we close? Thank you. Okay, this gives us a bit of an idea, doesn't it? So I'm just going to go down the page here, and we've got like literally the lion's share. 53% of you are saying specialism, expertise, your niche, yeah, your niche areas. Academic rigor, 7%. World-class facilities, 4%. Okay, national reach, yeah. Technology, 9%. values and ROI based. Okay, that's brilliant. So it just shows you, right? So just even here, we've got like over 100 people here, and you've all selected, you know, sort of one option. We've got insights, which is basically saying that actually pretty much all of you, sort of the lion's share, a lot of you are competing based on your specialism, your niche, your expertise. And actually only a few of you are going for the sort of values, outcomes. We are getting information out there that tells you about what we're able to achieve for you, employer. Yeah, or we're able to sort of show you that technology-wise we can reach anywhere. We can create you a national program, for example. Others is academic rigor. You won't be able to beat us. You know, you can go anywhere. You'll always come back to us because of our academic rigor. Have a think about these and think about how that comes across in your content, in the funnel filling. Yeah. I mean, when I do sort of, you know, these sort of checks and balances, when I'm looking at it as an outside observer, when I'm working with my clients, you know, I can see things straight away and that kind of those gaps and what have you. Sometimes we're not able to see it from when we're working internally, but again, it's just a really good way of just looking at some of these. And there's lots more of these, you know, USPs. I've put here kind of the ones that I think probably most sort of popular, if you like. All right, I think we're moving into the last section here. Yeah, top tips then. So here, these 5 top tips really are for this top end of the funnel. And I think this is where you guys are saying sort of you're struggling the most. And my view is, you know, enlist the help of your central marketing teams, yeah, if you have them, right? Because obviously we do know that a lot of providers are small providers. You don't have that resource. And so, you know, one person is doing all of the sales, all of the marketing, all the campaign development, but it's too much, right? And I think also that you could potentially get your quality teams, your trainers involved in this, because they will just help to innovate. Even if you haven't got the budgets, you haven't got the resources, that peer insight and development around campaigns, I think you become that much sharper. Be clear about your strategic position. So I've mentioned loads of dimensions, loads of kind of what are you competing on? Where do you place yourself? You know, where do you want to be? So before you even sort of make that part of your, like, let's start with a blank sheet of paper. Let's sort of, don't scrap everything. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as the saying goes. But, you know, let's have a look at this again. Let's put a fresh set of eyes on this. And you know, what's working for us, what isn't working for us, and where do we need to go from here? So my advice would be to just know your ideal customer. Everybody says they do, right? But if you did, also know how you're going to reach them. What's the best channel to capture their interest, to pique their interest, and make sure the content's engaging. Like I said, it took me 2 minutes to do that video. Yeah, and then it's also down to the if you like, the skills of the BDMs and the people that are out there. Like, how much out there are they willing to be? Do you see what I mean? Sometimes it could be about their confidence and their capability and capacity as well. Okay, but I always say make sure the content is engaging. So this sort of bottom end of the funnel here, just some tips here, 5 tips I've given you for here. So research clients before contacting them, of course. Everybody says they do that, but you still get the random emails where you think this doesn't even apply to me, right? Tailor interventions individually, avoid that mass mailer look, feel approach. Use ROI, which I think 26% of you are saying that's what you compete on, right? Within your correspondence, get employer feedback regularly. Get them to tell you why they're going to others, why they're not coming to you. What was the source of this inquiry? How is it that they found you? And why did they go with you in the end? Or if they didn't go with you, why not? That's all still rich information, because you can bring that back to base and you can analyze that with the curriculum teams and think, you know, is there something that we're not doing, or are we doing this? We're just not getting it out in our content and our marketing. And be clear about your upselling. Don't lose people at the end. Think about how you can upsell, even if it's a different program. Might not be another apprenticeship or a higher apprenticeship, might be something else, a commercial program, for example, that you can sell them. Last little bit here, I thought I'd give you a few tips on consultative sales. I think this is, again, a real useful area. So this requires that whole sort of marketing to sales expertise, really that kind of the whole thing. Thought leadership. Yeah, this, I think you want to position yourself in a slightly higher sort of bracket here. That thought leadership, the sector, the skills leadership is the position you're going for. And check your disruption potential on that. You know, have you got that capability? Have you got that? Are you thinking the right way to be in that space? Excel at your partnerships, your profile. It's all about authority, yeah, profile and leadership. And do you have the capability and capacity? You might have to absorb longer sales cycles for this, but they might lead to higher value sales. Like I said, our revenues are massive. We literally had 5 to 10 clients. You looked after them really well. I mean, you literally threw yourself at them. Yeah, because you knew that they were the ones that were contributing to these levels of revenue. And get your brand out there. Yeah, get your brand out there. What is your brand telling everybody? Yeah, are you fun? Are you engaging? Are you authentic? Are you real? Are you original? Yeah, and don't play it safe all the time. You know, I think sometimes apprenticeship content can be just too safe. So that's probably what I wanted to get across to you. We have the last poll here. I hope I've got a bit of time for a few questions. Can we just launch this one very, very quickly? I'm just very interested, if we go for it right now, Nadine, has today's webinar at least provided you with one idea or some ideas for exploration to drive, to go away and have a look at this and just go back and maybe do a bit of a sense check to think, do you know, actually this was worth it. I know it's 1 hour, but I always try and make it so that, you know, you get something. Like, I don't want your 1 hour to be wasted, but I sincerely hope that, you know, pretty much everybody got at least one thing that they can take away and explore or do something with, some ideas or one action even. Can we launch that very quickly? And then we'll go into questions. Thank you very much. And so, yeah, 80% of you saying yes, 20% partially, and thankfully we have no no's or unsure, which is great, and that's good enough for me, so thank you for that. I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me. I'd love to be connected to you guys. My email is below here. If you want to join the Apprenticeship Accelerator, we do all of these ideation, innovation, we look at challenges, we problem solve, we look at specific issues and we work through them. We look at action solutions, we share and care for each other. It's a free network. If you want to sign up, if you want to register, do it through this QR code and I'll get in touch with you and we can have a one-on-one conversation about it. I think this is the point at which I open up for questions, if we've had any. If there is any burning question, do you want to pop it in the Q&A now, or have we had any, Mark? Nadine? Anything coming?
Hi, Bally. There's been a lot of questions in amongst all the comments as well. So I suggest what we'll probably do is, if we can download them all. We can probably put them into a bit of an FAQ and we can answer all of them and send them back out to everyone. That would probably be a really good way to make sure everyone's question gets answered.
Are you basically, you've set me homework. Is that homework for me, Mark?
I didn't want to, but yeah, pretty much. If that's all right with you, Bally, that'd be amazing.
That's absolutely fine, yeah. Guys, get in touch with me if you need to, if there's anything burning. You'll find me on LinkedIn. I hope that's been really, really useful for you today. I look forward to receiving all the questions and I'll absolutely get them answered for you and come out to you. Thank you so much for the thumbs up. I think Nadine's going to finish off here. Nadine, over to you, good self.
Thank you, Bally, and thank you for running today's webinar. It's been an incredibly insightful session. As we approach the end of the session, we invite you to visit our website if you wish to catch up with any of our industry webinars on demand. Looking ahead to our next webinars, here's what's coming up. So on Tuesday, the 2nd of December, we are running an Aptum Apprentice 30-minute demo webinar. We also have, on the 2nd of December, we have the Aptum Enhanced Update webinar. And then on Wednesday, the 4th of February, we have our next product roadmap quarterly update. And that concludes today's session. So thank you once again to Bally for a great session. And we hope you all have a great rest of your week. And thank you and goodbye.